Hey everybody. So today in this video I wanted to go over a little bit about sort of my philosophies on how I select short-term rentals here in Dallas, Texas. So I guess one of the first things that I look for, especially these days, is really looking into the local laws and regulations in the area that I want to select a short-term rental in. So take Dallas for example. Dallas as a whole they've tried to implement a short-term rental ban in the city of Dallas, and I've been asked a lot of questions on this topic itself. Many times from other hosts, even on the platform, they'll send me a message and say something along the lines of, "Oh, hey Roger, what are you gonna do when Dallas passes the short-term rental ban?" Well, while that may be true, there are certain things to be aware of when uh, looking into these types of regulations. So, take the Dallas short term rental ban, for example. As it turns out, this ban has been passed on single family residential homes. And the reason I mentioned that is because the zoning matters. If the property is zoned as a single family residential home, then it is therefore prohibited from being a short-term rental. However, I do have some short-term rentals in Dallas. How they are not single-family residential; they are zoned as multifamily. Either multifamily being like an apartment building or something like a duplex that has more than one side to it, more than one family, right? So these types of properties do not fall under this same ban, so that's why I mentioned it's important to know these regulations. But that's just one side of the equation. Another thing that I've been looking into more, I guess, more closely at is the fees and the taxes that you must pay on such rental properties. So they have this thing called hotel and occupancy tax. A lot of times you'll notice on Airbnb will charge what's called an occupancy tax. Now, I've gotten in touch with Airbnb asking them if this covers the hotel and occupancy tax that is imposed by the certain cities itself, and that is actually completely separate. So, if you look closely on the reservation itinerary, you'll see the breakdown where it shows the nightly rates, the taxes, the cleaning fee, and what's called an occupancy fee. This is completely different than what your city may be imposing. So here in the city of Dallas, if you look closely at the regulations, they will have what's called the hotel and occupancy tax, which is abbreviated as the HOT tax. And in the city of Dallas, it comes around to something stupid like 9% or something like that of the actual reservation itself, which is then collected by the city on a monthly basis. So as I scale my portfolio, at one or two properties, this isn't really such a big deal. But once you have multiple properties, in excess of 20 properties, such as my portfolio, it starts to become quite a large cost if all of my properties are in the city of Dallas, which thankfully they are not. So not all of the surrounding areas will impose such a tax. I know the city of Dallas does. I stopped picking up properties in Frisco and Allen because Frisco and Allen also impose an STR tax. The STR tax in Frisco, they actually charge a STR tax separate of the actual taxes collected on the revenue of the property itself. Um, so it's just kind of a way for these cities to collect a piece of the pie, so to speak. And not all of the surrounding cities will impose this. What I've noticed is the closer it is to the city of Dallas, these regulations just kind of seep outwards towards the suburban areas. So I've started picking up more properties beyond Dallas, and even like Plano is wanting to ban short-term rentals. But if you go out as far as like McKinney or Anna, we're not seeing those STR regulations as heavy as we do closer to the city of Dallas, which is a good thing. So I'm looking more towards those areas, really areas that are kind of STR friendly in terms of not imposing such regulations, taxes, and fees and such on hosts. When it comes to, I guess, looking at the areas, when I first got into this, some of my first properties were actually put up in areas that I really didn't even do too much market research in. And I guess when you think in the traditional terms of market research, a lot of people will, they'll compare what other Airbnbs are doing good in the area, which can be a KPI in and of itself, but others will use sites like AirDNA to kind of get a feel for what the property might do in terms of annual revenue. And I did a whole other video on this and why AirDNA sucks in my opinion, because, well, you can just check it out in the video, but one of the things that I looked at in the beginning was really the opportunity itself in terms of areas. So what I found is that as long as there is, there's good demand, doesn't have to be necessarily high demand. However, if it's in an area that has a limited supply, then you will tend to do quite well as long as your pricing is on point, your property has the proper amenities, and you're just a good host in general, right? So good hosts will do good in a lot of areas. Bad hosts will suffer even in good areas, in my opinion. So good demand, limited supply. A lot of times what that will do is, if you are one of the only Airbnbs in that area and there's good demand out there, especially if you're moving away towards the city, more in like the more rural areas. A lot of these areas, if you do a little bit more research, they tend to be very good for wedding venues. And I have a couple of properties out in these areas, and they do quite well year round. And the thing is, when your pricing is on point, you don't really have to worry about occupancy too much. You can drive 90% occupancy year round. While other hosts are kind of wondering how they're going to get their property occupied, the only thing that you'll have to worry about is your nightly rate. So that's kind of what I've seen on my end, is as long as I'm driving the occupancy, the only thing that I'm seeing the fluctuation in is going to be in the nightly rates itself throughout the year. I guess really from January throughout April being slow season, where we'll see nightly rates kind of dip, and then once we get into May, past May, you'll see the nightly rates pick back up. At least in my experience, right? That's what I've seen in my areas, in my properties, and I imagine it would be probably similar to other areas. At least here in Dallas, as long as I'm doing my part, then my properties will drive the occupancy. So another one of the key factors that I like to look at is if the area has a lot of hotels, then that typically means that people, there's a market for that, right? There's a market for people who are looking to stay in hotels. Hotels mainly being kind of like a one-bedroom setup. And as long as there's a demand there means there's a market. And if I put up a property there, that means I'm instantly going to become competition. So one of the things that, I guess, one of the several key factors is that when thinking about going up against these hotels is being able to offer something different to potential guests. And that might come in the form of a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Really, I guess a 4 or 5 bedroom house as well, as I typically try to stay at a minimum of 4 bedroom houses, because in my experience those perform the best. So when you're comparing a house to something, let's just say like a 1 bedroom apartment that's also being hosted by a hotel, or just a hotel in general, it opens up the potential for a party, a group, not a party as in a celebration, but a group of people that are looking to stay in one place that can not be possible as what's being offered by a hotel, say like a 1 bedroom, right? So this kind of opens up a blue ocean opportunity where you're not having to directly compete with the listings in the area or the hotel units in the area, because you're offering something completely different, right? It's a blue ocean. And the inverse is true as well. So if there's a lot of houses in the area, you might be able to diversify that, or kind of offer a different unit in terms of size to people who are just traveling by themselves, who don't want to necessarily have to pay for the price of a 4-bedroom house on a nightly basis, or even like the cleaning fee of a 4-bedroom house, which tends to be higher than, say, your 1-bedroom apartment. So being able to offer a smaller unit, more of a value accommodation for the traveler, might also be an opportunity to keep your property occupied year-round. So anyways, those are just kind of my philosophies on how I like to pick up properties. Hope this video was helpful, and I will see you guys later.